thought that there are three very important things that happened in the world since the book was completed, and not necessarily in any order. The economic downturn, the election of a new president, and the Phillies won the World Series. So, I'd love to get your reaction to that. I know that you actually met candidate Obama at one point during the campaign. You guys had an interesting exchange that you shared with us the other day. You offered to support him in any way you could.
Yeah, I told him I would do that. And I said, and I don't want anything in return. He said, well, you don't need anything.
So since you guys are obviously bonded in your first time together, it wouldn't surprise me if, as he's trying to think through what to do next, let's say you get a call from President-elect Obama, and he said, Ted, I got a lot going on, I'll have a few minutes, but you or me, domestically and internationally, what would your priorities be?
Priorities?
Or you can give as many as you'd like.
Well, I've already talked to him a little bit about the thing that concerns me the most of all is the nuclear arsenals. Because if our president wanted to, without checking with anybody, all he has to do is push the button and it'll launch some thousands of hydrogen bomb-tipped missiles that can't be recalled, and the Russians, within 5 minutes, will launch theirs. And 30 minutes later, that's about how long it takes a ballistic missile to fly from its base in Russia or the United States across the North Pole and into the other countries. And the world will end that afternoon. That's too much power for any one person to have. And we've got all these problems with Iran and North Korea, who want to build a few nuclear weapons probably. But we have 12,000 of them. How can we tell Iran and North Korea and Israel that they can't have any? We didn't tell Israel that they can't have any. Israel can have 100, but Iran can't. And anyway, we just don't have a way of having a consistent policy there. So the best thing, and they pose a terrible danger. You remember 18 months ago, approximately, a B-52 bomber took off from this base in Nebraska and flew across the country. Unbeknownst to the crew, there were 6 armed hydrogen bombs on the plane that were supposed to be dummies, but they weren't. The guys that put them in the plane were the dummies. But they looked very much like the dummies that made up most of the load. But fortunately, nothing happened. But it could have. And so I think that's the number one problem. I think the number two problem in the world is we have to move away from fossil fuels as quickly as we can to stop the buildup of these poisonous gases like CO2 in the atmosphere. Otherwise, the world's going to get so hot very quickly within the next 20, 30 years, and it's already happening, where the crops won't grow and most of the animals and birds and plants will die. Already the trees are dying in lots of the country because the weather's warmer than it used to be. So that's the second. We've got to stabilize the population by getting serious about family planning, because the thing that's causing all these environmental problems and carrying the world towards environmental collapse is the fact when I was born 70 years ago, there were just over 2 billion people on the planet, and now 70 years later, there's 6.5. The population of humans has increased 3.5 times. And the amount of stuff that we use has increased in almost infinitely. I mean, when I was born in 1938, a family was lucky to have 1 car. Now we have 3, the average family does. And so there's a lot more, we're using a lot more stuff than we have been up until now. And burning a lot more oil and other coal to create. The average American now uses twice as much electricity